Hey there, Darren Peterson here, talking about all things jazz. And today I'm going to start a series of videos, I hope, on Newk's Fadeaway, which is a rhythm changes cut that Sonny Rollins made back in 1951. Newk's Fadeaway was titled Newk's Fadeaway because Sonny Rollins looked like a guy named Don Newcomb, who was a baseball player, and they had a very similar face. And so everybody called Sonny Rollins Newk. Newk. So Newk's Fadeaway was cut with, I think, folks from the Modern Jazz Quartet, either that or Miles Davis's quartet of the time. And because Sonny Rollins was at a fairly early point in his career, he was like 21 years old. He was playing good bebop and had made people like Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis sit up and take notice. But he wasn't the Sonny Rollins that we later see on recordings like Saxophone Colossus or The Bridge, which came out in the early 1960s. Those are a mature Sonny Rollins, and this is a bebopping solid Sonny Rollins, but not somebody who's really the master that shows up on later recordings. So it's worthwhile and interesting to think about. Okay, so if he's just playing bebop and playing good bebop, what's it like? So here's two choruses of rhythm changes where he just basically nails it. And he does it in a really simple way that's really digestible for those of us that are trying to get our bebop chops together. And it's totally worth checking out and seeing what's going on. So hopefully we'll be able to extract techniques, make some exercises that you can work on and say, hey, this is going to help me sound more like Sonny Rollins when I play on rhythm changes or blues or standards of any kind. So totally worth checking out. So I would encourage you to go to the links that are going to be down in the description below for Newk's Fadeaway on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, and check out the solo and listen to it, learn to sing it, get comfortable with it, spend a bunch of time listening to it. And in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of how the solo is set up and how it's structured. When I say that he nailed it, I mean that he nailed it. He put all the right notes in all the right spots. So I did a nerd thing. I went and did an analysis of all the notes that fall on beat 1 or beat 3 throughout the solo. So the reason I chose beats 1 and 3 is that those are the cadence points. Like if you do a whole bunch of stuff and you land on a solid note on beat 1 or a solid note on beat 3, those are the strongest points in any given measure. And they give you a sense of like, have I arrived at a chord that I can rest on or not? And that is a common thing. We want to land on good notes on beat 1 if we can, because that clearly defines the harmony that we're playing. So when I did this analysis, here's what I found. And so in 69 bars or something like that, there's approximately 107 notes that fall on beat 1 or beat 3. And in that time, 43 of them, that's almost half of the notes that fall on beat 1 or beat 3, is the third of the chord that he's playing on right then. And there's a little bit of ambiguity about that because in some cases he might be playing a different chord change in his mind, superimposing different chords over the rhythm changes. But as I see it, and given what I know about what chord changes he either is definitely playing over or could be playing over, I think he's playing thirds almost half the time on beat 1 or beat 3. And then a quarter of the time, or not quite a quarter of the time, he's playing the root. So roots and thirds make up 64 notes out of 107. That tells you that I should be practicing playing roots and thirds on beat 1 and beat 3. And that's a really big deal. That's an exercise that I need to spend more time on. My own personal experience with bebop is that I find myself playing the right notes, but I play them not on beat 1 or not on beat 3. I might play like the flat 9 on beat 1, resolving down a half step to 1 on the and of 1, and what that does is just muddle the sound. If I play an enclosure on beat 1 as opposed to the note on beat 1, I don't sound like I'm making the changes. And so that's a thing that I should fix. But just, having done the nerdy analysis, having taken the time to look at this, fully half the time he's playing roots or thirds. And I think that that's actually a really good way to think about most of these kinds of things. For this era of jazz, in the late 1940s through the mid 1950s, it's a lot of roots and thirds, man. We should be thinking more about triads than we typically do, because we're always thinking about scales. We're always thinking about what chord scale relationships we're supposed to be playing. We think about playing nines and sevens and sharp nines and all this kind of stuff. But man, they were busy about nailing the triad, root, third, and fifth. That is also the other thing. Besides the 64 roots and thirds, there's 16 fifths. We're talking about triads, folks. Triads. So I think it's really a place that I know I could work on, and probably everybody could, just to be able to nail. We're not, not nail anything interesting. Play something boring. Play triads. Land on the notes that make up the triads, and see how clear your solos become. So that's just one initial thought, just based on that sort of large scale analysis. And so for the next couple of videos, I'm going to break apart everything that I can about this solo, and provide some exercises that can be derived from the techniques that I see Sonny Rollins using here. So hopefully this is going to be interesting and useful to us. Let's see where this goes.